You're welcome to the International Tit Bit, a platform where news and events from across the globe, laced with stakeholders' analysis, are presented to bring the world to your doorstep. And now to stories making the headlines. Explosion, gunfire at a military base near Mali. Police arrest 3 contractors working for electoral commission. Rival factions fight leaves 13 dead in Libya's capital. Chad rebels set to participate in peace-building talks. Prince Harry wins permission to challenge UK decision, deny him police protection. These and lots more just after the break. You're welcome back. Explosions and gunfire were heard in the early hour near the Kati military base on the outskirts of Mali's capital, Bamako, according to residents in suspected attacks by armed fighters. The military, which condoled off the roads to Kati, about 15 kilometers northwest of Bamako, said on Friday it repelled a terrorist attack that used 2 explosive-laden vehicles. The provisional death toll is 2 assailants neutralized, it said in a tweet. The situation is under control and clearing operations are underway to flush out the authors and their accomplices. The Malian armed forces vigorously repelled the terrorist attack on the Kati barracks. It was early this morning around 5 o'clock with 2 vehicle bombs packed with explosives. We were woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning by firing, by explosions. We don't know what's going on. A resident speaking on condition of anonymity said, at 8 a.m., an AF journalist heard detonations from inside the camp. Malian Special Forces personnel were deployed in the area and 2 helicopters flew overhead. The French embassy sent text messages to French nationals saying attack underway at Kati and arguing caution the authorities in Kati could not be immediately reached for comment. Police in Kenya have arrested 3 contractors working for Electoral Commission when they landed at the country's main airport in Nairobi, the commission said in a statement. The arrest could add to tensions in the run-up to the August 9 general election, as previous votes have been marred by allegations of fraud. In a tweeted statement on Friday, the police said they had arrested and later released a foreigner who had not declared sensitive election-related stickers discovered in their personal luggage. They did not mention that 2 others have been arrested, and the statement appeared to be a reaction to one by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission on Thursday. The Electoral Commission had said in a statement that 3 employees of voting technology firm Smartic were arrested on arrival at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport earlier that day. IEBC has contracted Smartmatic to supply, test, and maintain software, hardware, and accessories for the election. The brazen decision of the security authorities to arrest the 3 personnel without justification is an exhibition of intimidation, IEBC Chairman Wafula said. Police said they were not notified about the import of election materials beforehand. The stickers were not accompanied by an IEBC officials as per routine procedure. Police spokesman Bruno Chelso said in a statement, investigation revealed that stickers were legitimate IEBC property related to next month's election. A Sematic spokesperson did not immediately respond to an email request for comment. Next month's election beats a veteran candidate Raila Odinga against Deputy President William Ruto in what opinions polls suggest will be a tight race. Deadly clashes followed the 2007 and 2017 votes. Rival factions fought each other in Tripoli overnight and into Friday, killing 13 people in the Libyan capital's West clashes for 2 years as a practical standoff starts. Fighters exchanged fire in the central district where several government and international agencies, along with diplomatic missions, are based, and clashes spread to the areas of Zara and Asba. The main sides involved were both affiliated to the Presidency Council, a three-person body acting as transitional head of state. They included the Rada Force and Interior Ministry spokesperson said. The fighters from Rada, one of the most powerful forces in Tripoli, were visible around most central areas on Friday morning, while the main Presidency Council building was empty. Prime Minister Abdul Mahid, head of the Tripoli-based Government of National Unity, replaced the Interior Minister in response to the clashes, he said. A Tripoli Ambulance and Emergency Services spokesperson Osama Ali said 13 people were confirmed dead and 27 injured. A spokesperson for the Interior Ministry said 3 of the dead were civilians. A witness at a hospital said he had seen 6 bodies. The shooting began before the midnight and lasted for 4 hours. By midday, the situation was mostly calmed in central Tripoli, where some vehicles were burned and others parked with bullet holes. But there were many fighters in the city center, and a journalist heard further exchange of fire in Tripoli's southern suburbs, where the telecom company said mobile connections were down due to the unrest. Among them are the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine. Wednesday's protests appear to have been driven by anger with difficult economic situation. Among the people arrested include the leaders of the group that called for the protest. They will be charged with inciting violence, police said. Chad rebels said on Friday they would renew their participation in peace-building talks with the interim authorities after breaking off the negotiations last week. The decision revives the possibility of their participation in a national dialogue in August that is meant to be a prosecute to long-awaited elections after interim President Mahamat Idris Deby seized power following his father's death last year. In a statement, the rebel group said they would resume talks without giving further details. They had earlier accused the interim authorities of creating a bad atmosphere at negotiations in Qatar. Deby declared himself head of a transitional military council in April 2021 after his father, Chad's longtime ruler Idris Deby, was killed while visiting troops fighting the rebel insurgency in the north. Initially, his council had said it would oversee an 18-month transition to democratic rule, but it has shown little sign of organizing elections as that deadline nears. The Chadian authorities have set August 20 as the date for the national dialogue. Deby has presented this as the first step towards planning a vote. It would, in theory, include the armed groups, but the conditions for the participation have not yet been agreed on. Pressure has started to grow from opposition groups within Chad and bilateral partners to advance the transition process. Chad is an ally of France and other Western countries in the first fight against Islamist militants in the African Sahel region. The U.S. Development Agency, USAID, on Friday said it would give Kenya $255 million in emergency assistance to tackle severe drought. Some 4.1 million people in the East African nation are facing acute food shortages, the government says, while the number of cases of child malnutrition has surged by half in parts of the country to 942,000 in the last 3 months. The funding commitment comes in addition to $65 million that USAID had already provided this year. The USAID administrator, Samantha Power, said, "We need other countries to step up and join us," she said, warning that the food crisis could spill over into other areas like education since hungry children can't go to school. The government has so far spent 12.6 billion shillings to help people affected by drought, but it has a shortfall of more than 15 billion shillings, said Margaret Cover, the minister responsible for special programs. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has hit the global food supply chain, was increasing drought-related sufferings in Kenya and the rest of the region. More than 50 million people are expected to face acute food insecurity this year in Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, and Uganda, the World Food Programme said in a joint statement with other agencies on Friday. The catastrophe has been caused by the failure of rainfall in most parts of the region and compounded by the crisis in Ukraine, which has sent prices of wheat and maize higher. Now, coming up, is an interview with our guest on the standby. So do stay with us as we come back for the next segment of the show. Don't go nowhere. All right, it's another exciting time on the International Tit Bit, and on today's edition of the discussion segment, we shall be having a guest all the way from Canada to join us as we discuss things that we need to know about Marburg virus. Now, Marburg virus is becoming a real deal as it appears in Ghana sometime this week. So we're having Dr. Peter Emelike, MD, Chief Medical Officer, Victoria Oyiya Health Foundation in Canada, to join us on the show. Dr. Peter, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Wow, how is it over there? Hope you're good.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So Ghana have officially confirmed 2 cases of the Marburg virus, a highly infectious disease similar to Ebola, after 2 people who later died tested positive for the virus earlier this month. Tests conducted in Ghana came back positive on July 10, but the first result had to be verified by a laboratory in Senegal for the cases to be considered confirmed, according to the World Health Organization. Further testing at the institute in Dakar, Senegal, has corroborated the result. Ghana Health Services said in a statement on Sunday. The Ghana Health Service is working to reduce any risk of the virus spreading, including the isolation of all identified contacts, none of whom has developed any symptoms so far, it said. The first case was a 26-year-old male who checked into a hospital on June 26 and died on June 27. The second was a 51-year-old male who went to the hospital on June 28 and died the same day. The World Health Organization adding that both men sought treatment at the same hospital. 2 patients in southern Ghana's Ashanti region had symptoms including diarrhea, fever, nausea, and vomiting before dying in hospital, the World Health Organization said. Ghanaian health authorities have responded swiftly, getting a head start preparing for a possible outbreak. This is good because without immediate and decisive action, Marburg can easily get out of hand, said Multi, the World Health Organization Regional Director for Africa. This is also the second outbreak of Marburg in West Africa. The first case of the virus in the region was detected last year in Guinea, with no further cases identified. There have been a dozen of major Marburg outbreaks since 1967, mostly in southern and eastern Africa. Fatality rates have varied from 24% to 88% in past outbreaks, depending on the virus strain and case management, according to the World Health Organization. Now, so far, to a layman, back to you now, Dr. Peter. To a layman, what is a Marburg virus disease?
The basic thing you want to know about Marburg virus is, first of all, it was discovered in Germany by somebody purported to have come from Uganda. That was the first um, time it was noted, and that's where it got the name from. So the name Marburg is the name of the city where they had the first case of this virus. Basically, what you need to know is like it's a virus very, very similar to Ebola virus. A lot of us be aware of Ebola virus, and then the outbreak we had in West Africa, especially Nigeria. So it's in many ways similar to Ebola virus. As a matter of fact, it's really hard to differentiate between the Marburg and Ebola virus and sometimes Lassa fever without doing a laboratory analysis. So basically, whatever it is you know about Ebola, it's in terms of symptoms, in terms of signs and everything, it's almost the same thing with the Marburg virus, except when you go do like a laboratory test, I'll say, okay, this is a Marburg virus. And in many ways too, in terms of transmission, it's gotten from a certain species of the fruit bats, so people that consume wild animals, especially bats, are prone to getting it because some of them are sick. Some non-human primates also they also get infected with this virus. So basically, what a layman will want to know is that it's just similar to Ebola, and the same measures that we took then to curtail Ebola, especially in Nigeria, is what you basically need to do in terms of this outbreak.
All right, thank you for that. So I was curious to also know how do people actually get infected by Marburg virus disease? Because the rumors gathered, I don't know, let's say a speculation that men sleep with men. They're the major people that actually have this Marburg virus. I don't know, was it from Marburg or was it on the monkeypox? But
No,
then
that
how do
was
people get infected by Marburg virus disease?
yeah. So the monkeypox virus outside of Africa has been occurring mostly among men that sleep with men. For example, in Canada here, most of the
Okay.
cases of the monkeypox happen to be amongst men sleeping with men. So they tend to break out with those lesions, and that's how it has spread. In Africa, most of the monkeypox cases were not necessarily connected to men sleeping with men. So we tend to see those changes in the virus patterns and behaviors depending on the geographical location sometimes. For the Marburg virus, it's also transmitted by coming in contact with the bodily fluids of people that are infected. So, for example, things like unprotected sex as well, things like the saliva, their blood, their secretions and excreta, things like that. If you come in contact with it while maybe you're probably taking care of someone that has that illness, and it's really hard to say because they could just be having vomiting or diarrhea or any other generalized symptom that you probably relate to malaria or typhoid or like a flu bug or something, and then if you come in contact with it, there's a high chance that you might get infected, because according to WHO, so there's four classes of risk groups, and Marburg falls into the fourth one. The fourth one is the one that has the highest risk of transmission and the highest individual fatality. So it's like the highest in the highest risk group according to the WHO and all other criteria. So it's a really, really fatal virus, and it's something that has to be properly managed. People have to be aware of it. People, because I'm aware a lot of people, when we work with people in Nigeria, we find that a lot of people tend to push up certain symptoms that they have, and they just call it malaria, just call it typhoid. Some of the
Can you
symptoms,
hear me?
this virus also mimic those
Dr. Peter, are you
manifestations.
there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so we are still on the international tidbit. On the international tidbit today, we are talking about the Marburg virus, and we are looking at things we need to know about the Marburg virus. And then the doctor has actually put us through on some things. He has mentioned about the. Dr. Peter, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you. No, I was wondering, I wanted to find out, as it says with COVID, that the particular age seems to get more of the virus than COVID, and they talk about the older people being more prone to getting the virus. Does anything like that affect the Marburg virus? Is there a particular age that is prone to having it?
So far in the outbreak in Ghana, I believe there was a young man, and I believe there's also an elderly man. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not aware if there's any particular age group that is affected, but in terms of things like immunity, there's a popular belief that people that are elderly tend to have lower immunity when it comes to viruses generally, whether it's um, COVID or whether it's any other kind of virus. Apart from the monkeypox, which most of the elderly people probably had the smallpox vaccine, which kind of gives them some level of protection. But generally, the older people get, the more chronic long-term disease conditions they have, the lower their immunity. So that kind of makes them more predisposed to having more fatal outcomes, having more chances of getting infected if they do come in contact with any infectious disease whatsoever.
Okay, so I also want to know what are the symptoms of Marburg virus? In case you have someone close to you, what should you look out for to be careful if someone actually has Marburg virus?
So usually so in the incubation period, from point of infection, usually we take anywhere from 2 to 21 days, about anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. So within that period, it could manifest at any point. Usually, we just start with general symptoms like headache, fever, body pains, nausea, vomiting, just like you get in maybe severe malaria or typhoid, any of those other infectious diseases. But usually around the fifth or the sixth day, there's a tendency that they could break out in a rash, or we call it maculopapular rash, which is mostly in the trunk in their body. Not everybody breaks out in the rash, but some people will break out in that rash. Then, as it progresses, more severe symptoms like organ failure, things like what we call hemorrhaging. There's a reason why it's called a hemorrhagic fever, like Ebola, because they begin to bleed from different parts of their body, whether it's stooling or different parts of the body. So there's that frank bleeding from different parts of the body, this organ failure, prostration, things like that. So when it gets really, really bad, at that point, it leads to death. And there is really no treatment per se. There is no vaccine that kind of gives you, helps to boost your immunity against it. So the main way that we manage it is just by symptomatic management, rehydration. They put up what we call drip, like fluids, try to stabilize you, and then try to see um, if they can make sure that you don't succumb to the symptoms and to the weight of the virus.
All right, thank you. So I also want to know, the World Health Organization has warned that those taking care of sick family members can become exposed to MVD, that's the Marburg virus disease. And what's your medical advice for these sort of people?
Yeah, so just like any other illness, so generally people should be more hygienic. I think COVID has taught us that. And I think as COVID is waning, a lot of people are beginning to loosen up and forget all these things, because the key point is it's easy to stay away from infected people when it's confirmed that they do have the virus. But as we saw in Ghana, the confirmation that they had this Marburg virus was after they had already passed on. So it's really hard to say, okay, this person has this virus, so be careful and stay safe. So basically, it's just for people to observe good hygienic practices, try to avoid coming, especially health workers, people that are in contact with sick people. If you have someone sick at home, whether it is Marburg virus or COVID or any other thing, you just want to make sure that you're being hygienic, make sure people with symptoms are wearing masks, they're being, kept away from other people as much as possible. Make sure that you're well protected when you're coming in contact with them or with their bodily fluids and things like that. So I think basically once you notice that someone has symptoms, yes, you just try as much as possible to protect yourself, whether it is Marburg virus or whatever virus or bacteria, as much as possible, because it's really hard to say which virus is which or what somebody is sick of when you don't have any laboratory confirmation whatsoever.
All right, so we are still talking about Marburg virus, things we need to know about Marburg virus. But just so you know, the conversation is on the social media platform. You can do this on all our social media platforms on Facebook and YouTube. It is Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram, it is at Atlantic TV Network. Well, on Twitter, it is Atlantic TV Network. Stay with us as we jump off for a short break. Don't go nowhere. You're welcome back, and for the benefit of those that's just joining us, this is the Atlantic Television Network, and today on the Atlantic Television Network, we're talking about the Marburg virus. And we have a doctor that's joining us all the way from Canada as we take a look at the Marburg virus in a deep and closer understanding. So back to you, Dr. Peter. Hello, Dr. Peter, you're still there, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you so very much for still staying connected. I also want to find out from you, after the outbreak incident in Ghana, the investigation to find out the cause of the infection is still unknown. Preliminary investigations have shown that neither of these cases had a history of contact with dead animals, sick persons, or animals. In a case like this, how careful can one be?
So the truth is really hard to say um, what they came in contact with because firstly these people have passed on, both of them, so I don't know how much history that they gave while they're at the hospital as to what they have come in contact with. But as we know, it's mostly transmitted by coming in contact with either these animals, this bats, or in contact with the fluids of somebody else that is infected. So I'm not aware of any other means that are being transmitted. Sometimes just where these people that were infected before have been lying down or they've left some of their bodily fluids. There's that tendency that if you come in contact with those places, probably share the same bed, share the same towels and things like that, you could get infected. So as far as we have known all the outbreaks till now, it's been either from human transmission or from contacts with animals or from people that eat those animals. So I would suspect to a very large extent that it will be one of the above. Sometimes patients don't give you the whole story. Sometimes they don't remember the whole story, especially when they're in a very dire situation and under the weight of their illness. So I would suspect to a very high degree that it will be one of these options that I've just mentioned.
Okay. Now, based on the current risk assessment, World Health Organization advises against any restriction of travel and trade to Ghana. Do you think that was a fair judgment?
Yes, I agree. It's a very fair judgment. This reminds me of when South Africa had discovered the new variant of the COVID, and then they started placing ban on travel from certain African countries. We saw that there was a big backlash and there was like a backfire basically because if you start to punish people for being vigilant and discovering certain viruses or strains, then it makes them to become more secretive. They'll want to hide things that they find, and that way it predisposes everybody to more risk. So it is at this point just two people that have been infected who have passed on from the effect of this illness, and there's been no new cases discovered. We've had outbreaks in the past where it was just one person, where it was just two people. So we are hoping that it stays that way for now. Good thing we have not heard of any new cases, so I don't see any reason why at this point there should be any restriction of travel because it's only going to have negative effects in the long run.
Okay. Shouldn't have any negative effects in the long run. But now, what role do you think sensitization, or shall I say orientation, can play to help prevent the spread of the Marburg virus disease?
Oh, sensitization will go a long way in um, in stemming the spread of this disease. So basically, people have to know to continue good hand washing, wearing masks when they're ill or if they're working with people that are ill, keeping your environments clean generally, things like that. Just little small things like that go a long way to prevent any virus, whether it's like a common cold or it's COVID or now it's the Marburg. Those kind of things help to prevent. Sensitization also in terms of coming in contact with wild animals, you know, people that consume bushmeat in quote, they have to be aware that there's a very high risk of eating sick animals, of coming in contact with sick animals, and it could and they pose a risk to everybody else. Most of the outbreaks that we've seen always had some relationship with people that were eating wild animals, whether it was COVID, whether it was monkeypox, whether it's the Marburg virus. So people that consume those kind of things have to be extremely careful. They have to be, the government has to put checks in place to ensure that those meat markets, those bush meat consumers are aware of the high risk of potential transmission. And it could be something new, a new virus altogether, because this virus keeps mutating. So people that eat those meats, they have to be really careful, have to be aware of the risks that they pose to themselves and to society at large. So basically, hygienic practices and then making people aware to a very large extent of the risk of coming in contact with sick animals and then eating all those animals as well.
Okay, so let's now bring it back home to Nigeria. You are a Nigerian, even though you're in Canada. Looking at the boundary we share with Ghana and all of that, where do you think Nigeria should work hard? What do you think Nigerians, like the government, should do to make sure things like this should not be reported in Nigeria?
So definitely, we do not want to close our borders at this time or any time in the future for this virus. Basically, sensitization is all that we need. Vigilance to a very large extent. Letting people know that if you present with certain symptoms, certain signs, you should seek medical attention. There are lots of options these days for you to speak with a medical professional. Always seek to speak with a medical professional. Don't patronize untrained medical professional, quacks, chemists, and those kind of people. Speak to a medical professional. They would be in a better position to tell you how you should manage, how to, control any infection that you probably have. The government should encourage these things. There are a lot of organizations, for example, our organization, We provide free telehealth services where you can call in or you can send a message. If you have certain symptoms, we'll be in a better position to advise you and to guide you and give you treatment if necessary. So people should take advantage of all those provisions, and then in people doing that more often, we'll see that all these things are being able to be managed. For example, if those two patients in Ghana didn't go to the hospital, there's no way that the government would have been able to trace and know what was going on. Take, for example, they decided to get treated at home by someone trained person or by treating themselves. So this is how all these things spread. So the behavior of people generally has to change. Their approach to infectious diseases, their approach to illness in general has to change. They need to take their health more seriously and then seek advice from the trained professionals every time. And the government has to be vigilant at the airports, at the borders, at the hospitals, to look out for all these signs and then basically make the public sensitized to how they can protect themselves as well.
All right, the government needs to be vigilant in all of this. All right, it has been a nice time. It has been an exciting time. Thank you so very much, Dr. Peter, for having us, or for being with us today on today's International Tit Bit. Thank you so very much for coming.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, so we'll jump off for another short break as we come back to round off for the session of the International Tit Bit. Don't go nowhere, but just before you go, remember that our social medias are still there for you to join the platform. You can follow us up on Twitter. You can also follow us up on Instagram. That's Atlantic Television Net and Atlantic Television Network on Instagram. Please stay with us. We shall be back in a jiffy. Don't go nowhere.
Meets the people making the difference in our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810-634-1777. ATN Icons, celebrating the giants of our time.